Hey Arte, I'm so lucky to have you here. With us today, we have Arteh Odjidja. He's a photographer. He's going to tell us a little bit more about the work he's doing, um, and I guess how he gets to influence the world. Arteh, hey, thanks for joining us. Thanks for giving us some of your time. Um, tell me a little bit about you, Arteh. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing, and how you got there.
Oh, thank you so much, Joseph. It's great to be with you guys. Just I guess let me introduce myself a little bit. So I'm a portrait photographer based in London, and I've been a photographer for about 11 years now. And I started off as a fashion photographer, really kind of like ambitious to kind of like be in magazines and stuff like that. That was my kind of passion. And then I kind of transitioned into more storytelling, portraiture-based work, which has allowed me to kind of like have exhibitions around the world and be published and speak as well, which I quite love to do, go and like really interact with people who are interested in human stories. I had a chance to travel and do projects in Africa and stuff like that, and really talk about some hidden faces of humanity in those parts of the world, and try and tackle some important issues like the environment and things like that, equality and stuff like that. So it's photography is a passion of mine, but it's also something that's allowed me to just kind of like connect with so many people around the world. And I've even got a book coming out next year on a project that I've been doing for the last 8 years, which is all about celebrating human stories of like migration and refugees and stuff like that. So it's really kind of about connecting, not just me connecting with people, but allowing me to also help other people connect with other groups and around the world that maybe they're not so familiar with, to kind of ultimately allow us to once again connect, be a bit more unified in our understanding of humanity and how we can all impact each other, in this world and in this life. So photography has become a big passion of mine, and it's something that's allowed me to really, impact people's lives in that way. So that's pretty much me, I think, maybe in a little bit of a nutshell.
Arte, I think the area you're in, the market you're in, I'm fascinated by, how you've differentiated yourself. How whenever I hear you speak, whenever I see your photos, there's an impact there. You like you said, you have a story to tell, because it's for me, it's difficult to express what art is. It's something that I feel, and that's one of the reasons I guess I can never feel like an artist, because it's hard for me to sort of put a structure to it and say, hey, look, this is what I need to do. This is how I get there. How or what inspired you? Like when was that moment that you thought, okay, my goal is I'm gonna be a photographer, and and from my understanding, to be one of the best photographers in London, how? What?
Wow. Okay. Well, thanks. Well, thank you so much for the question. And the truth is, I can actually pinpoint two really key moments in my life when I was like, I need to be a photographer. There was like two key moments. The first one was when I was living in like North London, as like I think I was might have been 10 or 12 or something like that. And funny thing that happened is that like my dad was a filmmaker back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and the early 90s as well. He made films, and he came from like, he was born in Ghana, and he kind of, during colonial times, and he had this ambition to be a filmmaker. And my mum was a big advocate for every single child, when they turned 10, should have a camera. She wanted us to kind of have a camera for some reason. So every time anyone turned 10, I have two other brothers, we would get cameras. And I remember on my 10th birthday, so my 10th Christmas, I remember getting like a camera in my whatever, my present. And I remember thinking, man, this is not what I wanted.
Little did you know. Little did you know.
I was like, I didn't really want a camera, Mum. And I remember actually putting this camera to one side for, you know, months or years even. And then, but just having it there kind of thing. And then one day I was actually in our North London home, and it was summertime, and I actually was looking out the top window of our house, and I saw some smoke coming from a house across the way. And I was like, ooh, like there's smoke. And then the smoke kind of got increased and it increased. I was like, there's a lot of smoke coming out of that house, right? And then, and I said, whoa, is that like, and I just stood there like, I thought someone else will notice this. I'm not going to raise the alarm. I thought someone else will notice this. And eventually I started seeing the fire trucks coming and to kind of like attend to this fire that was happening in this house across the way. And my first instinct was to pick up that camera, which was so weird to me. And then I literally just took the camera out and started add some film in it. I just started taking pictures of like all the neighbors outside and their fences and their kind of gates. Oh, what's going on over there? And I remember taking pictures of what was happening. And I remember getting this exhilaration. It was like an exhilaration. I was like thinking, what is this? Like, why am I loving this so much? It was so foreign to me because I'd never really felt that in flow or that kind of that passion before. So it took me completely by surprise. So that's when I first got the first taste of like, there's something in it, capturing emotion or capturing things that are happening. That was the first time. The second time was after university. I actually went to study. So I had this passion for photography, but then I remember meeting a tutor, someone who came to visit us at college. And I remember asking him, ooh, what do you think about me being a photographer? And him saying to me, ooh, you know what? I'd do graphic design if I were you, because it's kind of hard to make a living as a photographer. And I was like, really? And I could do graphic design. So I could actually do design. So I decided that I was going to pursue graphic design and do photography on the side. So I went to university to do a graphic design degree, basically. And I did that for 2 years. It was a foundation degree that I did there. And I came out of that experience really not liking it, because I thought I hadn't really done what I really was passionate about, you know. So I got a job working at Apple, and then I remember one day being on the shop floor at Apple selling some Macs and stuff like that. And I remember people being really pumped about selling Macs, and I realized I don't want to do this forever. I don't want to be selling Macs forever. And my real passion is photography. So that's when I literally reached out started emailing studios in London. Like, I think I emailed like 20 studios, and like 2 of them got back to me and said, yeah, okay, we might want to have you come in. I basically was like, I'll come and pick up your trash. I'll pick up your lights. I'll tidy your cupboards. I'll do anything. And actually 2 of them responded, but then one of them was really keen. So I went down to go meet them in South London. And then I met my first photography mentor, the guy who basically owned the studio. And he would just talk. He was like an older photographer, maybe hadn't been super successful, but you know, had his own studio. And I just would sit there and just talk to him. And I'd go there on my days off from Apple, always go there and just kind of work there for free. And then eventually I got to know other photographers that use the studios. And then before you know it, people were like, oh, Arteh could assist you. And then I was assisting photographers on photo shoots. And those are like the 2 moments where I was like, actually, do you know what? That first feeling of this is something I want to pursue, then doing a little bit of that in school and in college, and then with graphic design, and then doing graphic design for 2 years and thinking, yeah, but I'm not really a graphic designer. That's not my main thing. And then deciding that, you know what, I might as well just go for it. I might as well go for photography and just see what happens. And that's pretty much the 2 moments where I was like, I'm just going to go for it.
Wow. I'm impressed how it's almost like you took that leap of faith. You know, you're following your heart, and you know, most people take a job because, okay, the wage, right? You know, you have a high wage. Oh, right, I might as well apply for that job. But you were like, look, hold on a minute. I just want to work here. I want to know more about it. It's not about the wages. It's, you know, I just want to know more about it. You were really curious. And when did you finally transition more, or like more of your effort and resources into photography, and I guess just stopped anything else and thought, hey, look, photography is what is going to be myself, my brand, my name is going to be photography. What was that? What gave you confidence in sticking to it? Obviously, you were working there sometimes, but at what point did you not just felt inspired, but felt confident that this was something that you were going to stay and do for, I mean, for as long as you keep interested? Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, for me, I was working at Apple for a while longer when I got that kind of, when I was just helping out that studio. And then I said to myself, do you know what? I love this. And it wasn't easy, by the way. Photography, like assisting other photographers is not easy. Sometimes you're there till like late at night when when you're packing away equipment and you're getting home really late. It can be really quite a long process, but there's something about it that I was like, everything else, nothing compares to this feeling of creating in the moment. And so what happened was I spent a year going to that studio just helping out for free, and like I'd even go and pick up someone's medication at times. I'll just kind of do anything, right? And then after a year of doing that, I said, I'm going to become a studio assistant. I'm actually going to start from the bottom and just learn. So I basically applied for a job working in a studio, and I got the job. And in 2008, end of 2008, I left that Apple, and I basically, in February of 2009, I began to become a full-time studio assistant. And literally, I was working in an incredible studio. It's called The Works in Parsons Green, South London. And that was a major studio. There's like 10 studio complex. I think it's like 3,000 square foot or something like that. It was a big studio, and we'd get everyone from like Naomi Campbell, GQ. We had Brad Pitt come there one time and film something. It was like the top of the thing, And what you do is that you go in and you basically bring in coffees and then lunches, and you walk in and you'd be like, look at all their lighting that they're doing. And you just kind of almost like peer and see what these professional photographers were doing. Fascinating place to make contacts as well. And I decided that after that 9-month period of just being a full-time studio assistant, what happened was on weekends, we could use the studios ourselves and use the equipment. So every weekend, pretty much without fail, I was in there and I was doing my own shoots. I was learning the equipment. They actually taught us how to use equipment. We were constantly taking equipment into studios and out. We were cleaning the studios after they'd left. We were painting the backgrounds. We were doing everything that you do at the bottom level. And I just realized that I loved all of it. I loved all of it, even the late nights. I didn't understand. So that's when I realized that I was in the right place. Like, if I can love it, even when it's like, you're getting home at 1 o'clock in the morning or something ridiculous, and then, you've got to lock up this 10 studio complex and you're responsible for it. It was fascinating. And we did that for 9 months, made some great contacts. And then as soon as I'd finished that 9-month contract, I was out there into the freelance world and I was assisting photographers. And then what happened was I actually joined a company called Leica Camera, and they're a German brand, and they had a new store in Mayfair, and they were looking for photographers that would also be like shop assistants and sell cameras. And I said yes. And I said, can I please have a job? And they had an interview with me. And then the really interesting moment in my life was when I found my second mentor, right? And so I'm sitting down in my interview at Leica Camera when they're opening this new store, and they're like, Arteh, okay, so what do you want to achieve in 10 years? What do you want to achieve in 10 years? And I said, I want to shoot for this guy called Oswald Boateng, who's a fashion designer on Savile Row. And he happens to actually be Ghanaian, like myself, like this tall, elegant, amazingly well-dressed man, very focused guy. And he's just become this super successful phenomenon in the fashion world. And I sat down and I said, I want to work for him. And they're like, well, okay, really? I was like, why? But I admire him. He's incredible. He's an inspiration. They're like, well, why do you think it'll take you 10 years to do that? And I said, well, I've got to like learn the industry. I've got to become a better photographer. I've got to do all this other stuff. And they're like, you don't have to do that. You just have to kind of, go over there and introduce yourself. They're just people. Then, like, it's a fashion brand, but they're just people. And that actually was the first moment I actually changed my mind about how I collaborate and network, right? And I understood that you have to appeal to human beings, like, you know, to people if you want to really succeed, you know, in your life or your career. It's not about looking at a brand and saying and thinking what the brand is. It's about understanding there are people who are trying to achieve the vision. So how do you fit into that vision if you want to work with them? So anyway, so I did that, and I basically went there and introduced myself, and I sat down, and it was crazy. I handed in the CV on like a Tuesday, and I got like an interview. I got an email to say come and see. I got an email on a Thursday to come in for a meeting on a Monday. It was like, is that quick? And I was like, wow, didn't have to wait 10 years for that meeting. And then I sat down with them, and I literally was showing them all my work from that studio that I'd done on all the weekends, all the photo shoots I'd done. They were like, and all the graphic design from my university. And they were like, wow, okay, you can do some stuff. You got some talent. What we're going to do is we're going to help you. We're going to give you some clothes. We're going to see what you can do, and we're just going to work with you from there. And you know, 2-3 years later, of just working with that brand, wow, it was amazing. I ended up traveling to like different places like New York and Moscow for fashion weeks, and just like working really, really hard with their teams. And I just learned so much. And then at the end of that, once again, and Oswald Bertine became this incredible mentor, became this great example to me, and taught me how to take my work to another level by pushing me beyond my limits. So by that association, it really gave me that, okay, I'm here, I know what I'm here to do. And I realized that I was do everything that they throw at me, I could do. Everything that they were like, oh, can you do this? I was like, yes. And I would just figure it out. And I would also suggest doing stuff. I was really hungry. I was really, really hungry, which I think is, when I say hungry, you know what I mean by that. I was really passionate. I was like, I will stay up all night. I will do anything. And that's, and because I got such a buzz from creating beautiful images, like wow, I can get a person, get some clothes, get this, and I can make something, you know, and it felt effortless. It was really weird.
That's, I mean, I wanted to know, I think it's I guess more of a personal question. You know, I hear your story, and you're very positive throughout this story. And obviously that's how do you, but when I hear the story, I see so many challenges that you are able to overcome. You know, you're like, you always saw the bright side on what you were doing. You know, okay, look, I gotta clean it, fine, I'm gonna clean it. Oh, do you want a coffee? Okay, I'll get you coffee, but I want to be in this industry. What, I don't think I would have been able to, or have the strength, or I think not many people have the strength to do such, to commit yourself, you know, to such progression, and determination. What, during hard times, you know, how did you overcome hard times? How was, you know, many students, you know, they've never entered the world of work, and what tip will you give, or what, you know, how did you overcome hard times in this process? I mean, were there hard times?
There were so many hard times. Like, the funny thing is, you look back, like, you know, in hindsight, you're like, wow, that was a moment. That was a great moment. But then there were lots of hard times. Like, I think the main thing that stops a lot of people is sometimes it's just the it's not, I wouldn't say even just the pressure, but it's like, it's the inner game in your mind that's telling you, oh my gosh, is it worth it? Is it, you know, this is really hard. Like, this person's not, I'm not getting the feedback or the progression I want right now, and I want to give up because it's like I'm getting some rejection. And I got all of those things. But the thing is, there's a really interesting guy called James Clear. He wrote a book called Atomic Habits, right? And his quote is, if you have a strong enough why, you can overcome any how. You know, if you have a strong enough why, you can overcome any how. So the thing is, your why is like your dream, your vision. Like, you know, what is it that I'm like, I want to enjoy at the end of this? Like, what is it that I'm like, oh, that's so sweet that I'm just gonna, even if this is a bad day, I'm like, I love it so much, I'm gonna keep going. And I think you really need that. You need that kind of, that dream to keep you resilient, because believe me, especially in the photography world, when you're starting out and you're really trying to push through, you know, you're doing a lot of things for free. You're spending a lot of time, just so much time and energy that you're you know, and also it's the level of, you have to have a high standard, you know, for what you do, because everything you put out there is saying something about you, something about your level, your quality, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's just this attention to detail. But I think it really it's this why am I doing it? It's this dream, like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And for me, I wanted to work with Oswald Boateng. I wanted to learn from him. I wanted to, but then one thing that he did is that he saw some of my work, and he looked at it at one point. And he said, "Arteh, you've got some nice pictures. You've got a good eye, but you're not telling stories yet." You know, he said that you're not telling stories yet. Like, and I was like, wow, I didn't know where that came from. But I was like, actually, when we went to Russia for that fashion week, I went there looking for a story, something that I'm going there to photograph a fashion show, obviously, and photograph the build up to a fashion show. But how can I find a story? How can I tell a story? And then that experience, just looking for that story, made me create my first exhibition, my first show, which is called The Stranger in Moscow, which was I then had an exhibition at Oswald Boateng Savile Row headquarters in his store. And that was like, I think the breaking point for me, the point where I was like, okay, I know what I'm here to do. And then people responded to it so well. And it went to America, and it ended up in books, it went into magazines, and it was just one of those projects that was a bit of a breakthrough project. When I started to think differently about it. So really, what keeps you going is this. I think when you get a taste for, I get to impact people's lives with my work, and people actually feel something when they look at your work. And, you know, you can't, there's nothing better than that. It's like a rock star when the crowd is singing your song back to you. You know, it's like, okay, that's why I do it. You know, it's like, and then you get a taste for it. You're like, yeah, but I want that again, and I want that again. So you're always kind of like almost chasing that feeling or that contribution, that impact.
Wow. You know, it's, for me, this is phenomenal, because in such a competitive market, you know, to be able to differentiate yourself to the level that they don't ask, hey, anybody to come along, but hey, look, I want Arteh to take these photos. You know, I want Arteh here. It's, you know, and I know we're running out of time, but, you know, if I would like to know, I guess as a last question, number one is, what differentiates you? What do you think makes you different than the huge competition that is out there? What's made you stand out from the rest? And second is, what would you say to a younger self for yourself? What advice could you give him to differentiate himself, I guess, earlier in life, or maybe how to overcome obstacles? Yeah. What advice would you give?
Okay, so that's the first question was, how do I like differentiate myself, and the second one was like, what advice or what makes me stand out. I honestly feel like what makes me stand out is when I create work, I have to love it first. You know, like, I have to love my work. And I was actually telling a group yesterday when I was doing a talk about, I was like, you have to be the arbiter of your output and what you create. Like, you have to be that person that's like, dude, if I don't love it, I'm not doing it for other people. It's weird because you, as a photographer, you are doing it for other people as well, but it has to pass your standard first. It has to kind of pass your tick of like, okay, this is of my quality, or, you know, it has the emotion or the heart or the storytelling that I enjoy. And I think what people sometimes don't do is that they kind of focus on other people too much, and they create for Instagram, or they create for the moment or trend or something like that. And I think one thing I learned is that I like to play the long game. I'm like, I have to really love my work before I put it out there. And if I love it, I have the confidence to say that other people will love it too. But it has to stir in me that kind of, yeah, wow, I want to look at this over and over again. And I think my first experience of that came in 2013 when I went to an exhibition by Ansel Adams. He's a very famous American photographer, landscape photographer, shoots black and white like I do as well. But I went to his show and I literally was at this incredible exhibition. I saw people staring at his work and just staring at it for 10 minutes, like these amazing big prints. And I realized that you can be that kind of photographer, or you can be the kind of magazine photographer who kind of like, okay, that's a nice picture, and then you throw away the Vogue magazine until the next issue. Do you know what I mean? It's a different kind of thing. Like there's some photographers, you literally will go to a museum and stare at their work. You know, you take an afternoon off, and then there's the magazine stuff, which is not, I mean, I've been in magazines, it's great. But I realized that that's not where I want to live. I want to live in museums. I want to live in books. I want to live in, you know, things that are more archival, you know. And because of that approach, the work that I do, I feel has like a timeless element to it. You know, it's not of the moment. It's always about humanity, and it's usually about telling a story. You know, and stories. You think about it. You know, think about the Trojan horse and all these incredible stories from Homer, and you know all these amazing things. They just you know, they're not stuck in a time. They just transcend time, right? You read it now, you're like, wow, okay, let's, you know. And so you really realize that you're like, actually, if I focus on strong stories, my work will outlive me. If you know, and that makes sense.
Oh wow. Yeah.
You know, and that's why like a lot of the stuff that I've done, like, you know, is still being featured in places. Like a museum just approached me last year to acquire 3 of the pieces from The Stranger in Moscow. So imagine that was like 8 years ago, 2012. And because the show went to America and it got exhibited out there, the museum was like, we want to actually acquire 3 pieces, you know, for their permanent collection. So you realize that that's, if you're focused on, I want to be around for like 100 years or whatever, then your whole approach to your work is completely different. Whereas I want to get 10,000 followers on Instagram in 6 weeks, or I want to be in a magazine. It's like the approach is so different that you photograph in a completely different way. So I think it's all about your approach and where you see your work living. And my work, I see it living in museums, and like I've got a book coming out next year, and you know, and that's where I see my work really being appreciated. And that's all from that first experience of going to the Ansel Adams show in 2013 and just being wowed by how people take in that kind of work. And then also going to an incredible show by a photographer called Sebastian Salgado, who did this incredible project called Genesis, which was an 8-year project going around the world and basically photographing like tribes and like forests and things like in natural environments that may not be around in the next 100 years because of the way we're treating the planet, you know. And he did this incredible 8-year project, and it just makes you realize that that kind of work will outlive those people, because they're telling, like, you know. So that was my approach. I was like, actually, I want that. And I think that experience of going to those shows just set something in my mind that I didn't just want to be September issue, next kind of photographer. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't fulfilling for me to do that. So it was different. And then to answer your second question, what advice would I give to myself? I would honestly tell myself, you follow your intuition as early as possible. Like, that's a muscle, by the way, because the thing is, the thing that's the enemy of the creator, or the enemy of anyone who wants to live a life that's of integrity, is the distraction of comparison. And just looking around and saying, "Ooh, that's happening. Maybe I should be doing that too." Or, "Oh my gosh, like everyone looks like this right now. Maybe I should be looking like that." That's what that is. It dilutes you. It robs the world of your uniqueness and your voice and your perspective. You know, we don't need 10 Josephs. or we don't need 10 Artehs. We just need like one Arteh, we need one Joseph, we need, if your name is Joanna, we need you to be you, and all that kind of thing. So really it's about the confidence that when I feel something, when I get inspired by something, I have to explore that and not dismiss it and say, oh no, but all my friends in my class, they're not doing that. Maybe I shouldn't be doing that. It's like, no, if you've received it and it's something that doesn't go away, it keeps coming back to you, it's your responsibility to nurture that. And even if you have to write it down in a journal or scribble something, do that. Don't dismiss your intuition. Your intuition is the thing that is guiding you to your contribution, your highest level of contribution in your life. And it doesn't have to be in the arts, it could be anything, in business, anything. You have an idea, you want to design an app, you want to design a product, you want to design a service that maybe no one else is thinking about. The first time someone came up with Uber, the idea for Uber, I'm sure people were like, no, we've got taxi cabs, like we don't need an Uber thing. But look how it's changed the world. The first time Google were like, let's create a search engine, I'm sure someone was like, no, we've got encyclopedias, we don't need to go on the internet. Or I'm sure the first time someone said, do we need 1,000 songs in my pocket? Was like, come on, who needs that? But look how it's changed the world. So really, you as a dreamer, you as a business person with an idea, your intuition is your strongest, most valuable asset. But it's something that you have to nurture. It's something that you can't be like, oh, one day I'll live through my intuition. No, because if you do that, you're building up walls against your natural, once again, intuition, your true voice. If you quiet yourself down too much for too long, you won't have the muscle to use it later. So really, it's about listening to yourself and trusting yourself. That's really what. So I would give myself the advice that trust yourself more. Be everything that you can be. You have a special contribution. And maybe people won't get it straight away, but if it stirs your spirit, your soul, then this is your task to bring forward.
Wow, Arteh. Okay, well, thank you so much. I think that goes for not for young people, but I think that kind of goes for everybody that could be watching this. Arteh, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for inspiring us. And for your wisdom and experience. Pleasure.
Thank you, Jess. I really appreciate it. It's great chatting to you, man. Thank you.